So welcome to our Captiva Flamingo interview. Roxy, it is such a pleasure to have you here. You have a cross section from your political role to your technology background to the new company that you're building to the foundation. All of these things touch multiple industries and it brings all of your background together. For such a young woman, you have like 200 years worth of wisdom and knowledge and stuff. So we are so delighted to, one, call you friend, but two, get a chance to pick your brain today, if that's even possible.
Yeah, it's so crazy. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for extending the invite. I was like, absolutely, I will clear my schedule to be here. And then secondly, it's funny that you mentioned that because usually I always tell people, don't ask me how old I am, ask me how long have I lived, because those answers are always going to be two different answers. So like you said, yeah, I've lived 286 years to be precise, but yeah, I'm 31 years old. And don't worry, my brain sometimes moves a little too fast for me where I'm just like, dang, I should have wrote that down. I don't even remember what I was talking about. So I'm really, really excited for this conversation and hopefully it'll be meaningful for those who are listening.
For sure. And so we got to tell our audience to buckle up because this is not something you guys will get anywhere else. We have exclusive access to this fabulous, fabulous Flamiga. So to get started, I actually want to learn a little bit more about your company, what you've been up to. I know that you are a little bit of a globe trotter. You've been from East Coast to West Coast to then over the pond in Europe, and you were just in Africa. So tell us a little bit, what has it been to be in Roxy's world?
Oh my gosh, I will definitely say that life has been moving so fast. It feels like it's been going 100 miles per hour. And I know so many of those who are listening that are part of your network and your audience can relate to that because of the life of entrepreneurship. But just to give brief history on me and my background, I started my career many, what feels like decades ago in the healthcare sector. And then I pivoted into big tech. In big tech, I did a number of different things, whether that was data architecture, whether that's product management, program management, online safety, policy curation, community guidelines. Pretty much, I transitioned into defending democracy online and making sure that products were built with integrity and ethics to make sure that people were interacting with them in a meaningful way. Somewhere along the way, I ran for public office because a mentor convinced me to, who was a very special and dear friend. And I did that. And I'm still doing that. I'm currently serving and representing the city of Bowie, Maryland. When I transitioned out of corporate America and left big tech, I actually didn't even leave big tech. It just felt like I walked around the corner. I started my own company that focuses on behavioral healthcare. And the two lanes that we like to say that we occupy is the digital healthcare space as well as the digital therapeutic space. And those are the two spaces that our company focuses on. And I started RoxHealth, and RoxHealth is honestly a love affair and a love letter to myself and to my family because I've had a long history of struggling with mental health over the last couple of years. And I lost my father to mental health issues. And so really, I built this platform and started this platform to be able to invest in emotional health and really correlating that to mental illness and helping people build proactive skills that combat those mental illnesses. Because, I mean, seeing a therapist may not be for everyone. Getting medicine may not be for everyone. And so we really focus on providing alternative pathways to digital healthcare and making sure that we attack the stigma that's associated with the healthcare landscape. That's a little bit about me. And of course, I like long walks on the beach. I collect champagne. I love fashion. I'm a Howard graduate. HU, you know. There you go.
All in a nutshell. The idea was birthed from like your own needs or that you saw in the marketplace that this is a growing need.
I think it started with my own needs, my own trials and tribulations of finding a therapist 7 years ago when I first started my relationship with therapy. And then it transitioned to when I was at Amazon, which was my last corporate company. I was in charge of skills development, wellness for our team, and just really looking after a lot of the toxic content that our team was responsible for reviewing and taking down off of the platforms that we were operating off of. So I identified and pinpointed the growing need at that point, mainly because it was validated in that moment that, oh, okay, people are really struggling with mental health. This is a serious issue. And a lot of people are not getting the help that they need because of the stigma. A lot of people like to talk about it from a perspective of access, but it's not just access. It's really the stigma and the socioeconomic barriers that are associated with being comfortable around being in. And so that's really what I wanted to focus on.
And how is it going so far? What are your plans for this year? Where is RoxHealth in its, what stage is it in?
So our product is still in development. We launch and release our product to our first customer coming up in April, May timeframe here. So we're still on track to meet that deadline, which we're very, very excited about because our platform involves a lot of different artificial intelligence models and different levels of computational analysis to be able to recommend personalized treatment pathways is what we call them. It just takes a little bit longer because we want to get it right. And we're mindful that with different users, you're going to encounter different demographic breakdowns. There are going to be different environmental factors to consider. There are going to be different ethnic factors to consider, different demographic factors to consider. And so we're very mindful of that. So for us, it was just top of mind that we get our models accurate and we get our tool functioning and interoperable with a lot of the other things that are running in the background before we release it to our first customer. So we're still on target. And then for your second question, when you asked me, where do I think Rox will be at the end of the year? Where do I want Rox to be at the end of the year? We really, once we launch to our first customers and then shortly thereafter, launch to the rest of the customers that we have LOIs from, we really want to go aggressively towards FDA approval. And so we will quickly then start to work on pre-submissions to start the process to gain FDA approval to be considered a medical diagnostic device, digital therapeutic diagnostic device, to be able to diagnose mental illness and those who are using the platform based off of what we're seeing.
I see that as such the timeliness of this, right? And seeing and how you're blending something as controversial sometimes as AI with the epidemic of mental health and just how much we are in need of this type of tool. It's just like, it just blows my mind that you are in the right place at the right time for this product.
We feel that way too. Don't worry. Our whole entire team feels that way. So it's really nice to
Yeah.
hear you say that.
Yeah. And I know that it's not just for like a few, it's for the masses. Like this could help
Yeah.
a lot of people. There's some products that are coming out in the market that are very niche. It's very much like, hey, we're trying to solve this one thing, but this touches so many of us, right? We're one, maybe 2 degrees of separation. And sometimes it's us. Like we're the recipient of that needs this. So this is something that can change a lot of lives. I'm super
Absolutely.
excited to hear how it's going to develop and looking forward to that announcement of the April launch.
Yeah.
So as um and then I alluded before, people know that you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on um around trends, particularly around technology, AI. You've been invited to Politico and universities and all these different places, not just here, but in other parts of the world to talk about these things. So give us a little glimpse into Roxy's brain about what you see this year as being a couple of trends that maybe we should be paying attention to, particularly maybe for small businesses.
I think there are so many different things that are happening in the landscape of technology. And currently at this time, I put them into two buckets because I find that small businesses are still in one of these two phases. You have digital transformation all up, and sometimes digital transformation can be something as simple as user experience, customer experience, or that can be cloud migration and making sure that you are migrating to the cloud and you're not operating on an on-premises environment and you're in line with the times. And then you have this other bucket of artificial intelligence. And when you break that down, what I'm specifically talking about in this context is generative AI that really helps with automation or access speed or management or cost savings or new products and new offerings. And those are the two areas that I bucket it for right now, specifically in the context of small businesses. I think what's so interesting is that there was a report that recently came out that of the small businesses that started to adopt and incorporate generative AI in some area of their process flows or their business flows, 88% of them saw increased revenue. And that increased revenue was as small as 12% and as high as 37% yield gains. And so I think those small businesses who are comfortable being agile, who are gritty, who are getting their feet wet, who are really looking at their process flows and saying, okay, I'm going to pick one core area, whether that's accounting, whether that's performance management, whether that's productivity, whether that's cost savings on supply chain, whether that's figuring out new products, new verticals that my business needs to be in, they are doing well and they're moving quickly. But I think it all starts with finding that area and finding that lane within your business and identifying that vertical and applying those particular use cases and figuring out what tools can help you in those areas to just at least get familiar with the tool. But then I don't want to be remiss and acknowledge that there are some small businesses that are still in the bucket of digital transformation. Because at the end of the day, many organizations just started even learning about what it looks like to migrate to the cloud 5 years ago. And that was like yesterday. And so I think for those small businesses who are still stuck at the digital transformation phase or still exploring with the digital transformation phase, it looks like starting with customer experience, user experience, and figuring out like what is something really small that I can start to incrementally change and fundamentally introduce for my customers to have a better experience, for them to have this deeper level of intimacy with me, and apply AI for automation there. And look at what that could do for you as you are continuing to elevate in this bucket of digital transformation. And honestly, that's how I see it right now for small businesses. It's really those two buckets of generative AI as well as digital transformation. I think the rest of the stuff is so much more elevated compared to where most small businesses are that it may not make sense to go there right now.
I love that you put it down to what really matters to a small business. And, we work with small businesses, and some of their obstacles to getting things done is that they're still very analog, very manual in their processes, from accounting to hiring to even looking at applications. I mean, so many different things. And I love that you reduce some of that friction and like objection to becoming more with the times by just saying, what's one small thing that we could attack this month, this quarter, this year, that would help improve some of those processes. And those are affecting all small businesses, right? Like we all have to deal with accounting. We all have to do some sort of user interface or some sort of process that we use every day in our businesses.
Right.
And I love that technology doesn't have to be a big, humongous digital transformation, but it could just be like getting all your stuff on the cloud. As far as on the marketing side, which is our favorite topic, what do you see there happening? What are some of the ways that people are using marketing and branding to advance their products and services?
I think the same way that people are embracing or thinking about technology and AI is the same way that they're thinking about marketing. It's very transferable right now. And I find that the organizations that are doing both are the ones that are getting the farthest. I think we're in a time where competition is increasing at a rapid rate. There has never been a time such as now that it has been so easy to enter the market as a new business. Now, while there may be so many hurdles, like you got to get this certification, you have to file here, depending on your state, it is so easy to enter the market as a small business that if you have a viable idea and you can speak to your customer and generate loyalty with that customer, then you can boom tomorrow. It's crazy because I don't know how many of you have been watching, but there's been a lot of hoopla today, in particular Monday, starting last night, around DeepSeek, which is a Chinese-based company that seeks to compete with OpenAI, and a lot of articles and a lot of researchers and a lot of industry experts and thought leaders have said that they are a lot more far advanced than OpenAI.
Yeah.
But really, what I want to flag on that point, earlier today, I was reading a talk by a gentleman who is a thought leader in technology. And what he said was, where most companies have gotten it wrong over the last couple of months and years is that they have focused on data models and the value of data. And I'm not saying that there is no value in data, but what he was saying is those who focus on developing a customer experience and a user interface that is in line with where their customers are today and not so focused on the model or the model functionality or this, and that with the model are the ones who will win. In layman's terms, we call that a wrap. Like you hear some companies develop wrappers around ChatGPT or OpenAI tools. We call it a wrapper. But the point that I'm highlighting here that relates to marketing is that when you focus on meeting your customer where they are, because user interface is a form of marketing, user experience is a form of marketing, brand identity is a form of marketing. All of those things matter, and they matter to your customer, and they translate to a form of an experience that yields towards loyalty. And what does loyalty yield towards? Increased revenue and reoccurring revenue. Because if I'm a loyal customer to you, and if I'm going to keep using your platform, if I'm going to keep adopting or buying your service, it means that I'm going to keep paying because I'm loyal and I like something about the experience that I'm getting. But I think the common pitfall that most small businesses focus or fall into is that they say, oh, marketing is hogwash. We don't need to do that. We don't need to invest in marketing because oh, that's cute. No, we've got this service offering and it's going to stand alone and compete in the market on its own. That's not how it works. And that's not what speaks to customers, because at the end of the day, if I can communicate why my service offering is better than you, and if I can generate a better user experience than you can, and if I can meet my customer where they are and align with the way that they live their life, I'm going to beat you and make more money than you every day, every time. And so I think what's becoming so clear, even in this AI transition or this technology race, is that those who are able to have the experience, the interface, the marketing essentials, and be able to connect with their customer. I don't call it customer obsession because I actually hate that people obsess over customers, because it's a very external looking in focused mind, as opposed to having customer intimacy and truly understanding where your customer is and trying to pair alongside them and speak to them and move with them and solve their challenges. But those who understand that are the companies who will win.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Well, that may be one of the first times that I hear it compared that way, because everybody's like, know your customer, know your customer, know your customer, and become obsessed with the customer obsession. And I think Jeff Bezos has said that, right? And the fact that you're like, yes and no, because it's a limiting thing, and then moving with our customer, because our customer is constantly evolving. They're constantly changing. Their goals may not change, but the way that they're doing things is the climate is changing. The new administration has changed the way that we're looking at things and saying things and messaging things. But I love that you brought in the word intimacy. Like, that's not something that you typically hear in business.
No, because it's been tapped as taboo, and that's cute for who thinks that it is. But at the end of the day, I think to obsess about your customer is not a human-centered approach, but to truly have customer intimacy. And I will never forget it. A mentor, his name is Jean-Philippe Courtois, which was one of the leading executives at Microsoft for decades until he retired. Who's a remarkable leader. I remember I shadowed him one day earlier in my career, and he said, Roxy, seek to have intimacy with your customer because you'll understand them. And when you can understand them, you can relate to them, and then you can predict their patterns. But to obsess about someone, to obsess about your customer, means that you keep an external lens that you're not truly able to empathize or really relate to their life, because you maintain an external lens, and that's not human-centered.
That I think will stay with me. And as I value it in my personal life, and I'm, very careful about who I give that closest to, it's interesting to, especially in the world that we're living in now, where everything's digital. We don't do things in person. Everything's virtual. We don't know what's fake or what's real. To really have that like closeness and care, I think that will probably be the differentiator
Right.
in the playing field that we're in the game that we have. Because how do you compete with that? Like,
Right.
I know them intimately. I know what moves them. I know what pains them.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. And like, we're in alignment. And that's something that is, it's just like a shift in the way that we look at our audience. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that would make a huge difference. As far as like sources that you use, I know you are an avid reader. Um, and you also choose like books from multiple places. What are some of the sources where you typically rely on to kind of get that view of what's happening?
There are a couple. So, of course, you have your traditional outlets that I like to pay attention to, like The Economist, the Financial Times. So, those are two big ones. Then you have, of course, the other ones, which are trends and reports that come out of World Economic Forum, Davos Summit, Business Roundtable. So you have those types of reports as well. And then you have traditional books. And the types of traditional books that I like to consume are oftentimes always going to be based on geoeconomic trends and what's going on geoeconomically across the world. The second is always going to be around the area of innovation, the speed of technology, and really understanding different inflection points that made certain companies what they are. Like a favorite book right now that I'm reading is Pattern Breakers. And it talks about harnessing inflection points and how new products and new service offerings are created from inflection points. So always almost going to be in the realm of innovation. I like to read a lot of books on luxury marketing because I think the luxury sector has really cracked something when it comes to their approach on marketing, because they have figured a way to capitalize on desire. And when you can understand how to capitalize on desire, not for a nefarious way, nefarious objective, but just to really pay attention to how it's communicated, you can really understand the basics of marketing. And then I think the last area is almost always going to be a story. I love storybooks that are old English literature or different movements that were harnessed in time. One of my favorites is the Surrealist movement, because it talks about creative expression and authentic expression back in the 1900s and how that was articulated and communicated in time, because I'm a communicator. So I always like to understand how people tell and express their stories, because at the end of the day, everything is a story. Your business is a story. Your life is a story. Politics is a story. Everything is a story. So when you can understand how people consume stories and how people tell stories, you can become a very masterful communicator. So the books I read are always, always going to be in those buckets.
In that vein of communication and communicator, you obviously are very eloquent and you can be very concise and brief, and you can also elaborate and have depth of knowledge on things. What would you say contributed to you becoming such a great orator and such a good speaker?
Honestly, there are two things. The first one is curiosity. I'm a very curious person, almost to the point where it feels intrusive and it feels like you're being interviewed. And that's okay, because I'm curious and I want to learn as much as I possibly can to understand as much as I probably can, because that's my learning style. I'm not the type of person that you can just tell me information and I'll be like, okay, that sounds good. My almost immediate follow-up is always going to be why. Why do you think about it that way? Why did you experience it that way? Why do you feel like it was articulated that way? It's always going to be why. So I'm always going to start with why. So I think that contributes because it allows me to distill things down to really understand where the breakdown is or where the true meat of the subject is, to be able to get to the heart of it. And then I think the second part of it is I like to tell stories or communicate to people the way that I would want them to communicate with me. And because of my learning style and the way that I understand and receive information, I almost have to be captivated, because I genuinely like, oh my gosh, like I'm partially developing this app for myself because I think I have ADHD and I don't want to go to the doctor and find out yet. But because of that, my brain just works so quickly and it moves so fast. There are always like a million thoughts at a time. I'm always hyper focused. But if you don't cut to the chase and cut to the meat and bolts of it and capture my attention, it's immediately lost and I will start daydreaming and it will be very difficult to get it back. And so I take my own experiences and the way that I like to learn, and then I try to communicate with people with that in mind.
Okay. Yeah. The practice of articulation and speaking, did you ever take any classes or any kind of training?
Well, no, my almost like my rule of thumb, it's funny because I tell everybody on my team and even my own assistant, I say to them, whenever they type anything, whether it's a briefing document, whether it's an email, I say to them, before you press send, stop and reread that message. If that note or document is not something that you would want to stop and continue reading, if you were to get it, like really pause your day and really be consumed and want to read it, then you need to rewrite it because clearly you haven't captured my attention. And don't press send until you do. And that's always, almost always my rule of thumb. And so my communication style is with the goal in mind that I want you to feel like you're in the room with me. I want you to feel like we're sitting down having coffee. It's very authentic. If I meant to say I'm going to say If I meant to say he, I'm going to say he in my writing style and in my communication style. But I'm not going to kind of cut out or be robotic and say, thank you for joining us today. We are going to start this presentation with, because you probably already fell asleep. No, those are the things that I use to guide the way I communicate.
Well, thank you for those tips on that, because I know that there are a lot of small businesses that they're so good at what they do, but they do not know how to communicate what they do. And they don't know how to connect with people to let them know about what they're doing. And just like the art of communication is something that I think is an ongoing skill that we all should master and that we should all continue to get better at. To start to wrap up, there are two questions that I wanted to ask you. And one is, what's been one of the hardest lessons that you've learned this past year, particularly as you've been building RoxHealth? And then what is something that you wish you knew before starting your business that you know now that has helped you?
I think the first answer is clear the noise. I think that's the first one. There was a lot of, and there is always a lot of noise. There's always movement. You're always going to get feedback. You're going to get people's opinions. And you as a leader have to be able to discern what is right for your business and what is right for you. And so oftentimes I'll get these messages where it's like, you missed the wave, the market is gone. No, clear the noise. It's not gone. Or, oh, did you see this competitor did this? They're not us. Clear the noise. Or did you see X person is up in how much revenue and shares, so we're not going to be able to sign that customer. Again, they're still not us. Clear the noise. And so I think my biggest learning lesson has always been like, I'm mindful of who my competitors are in the space, and I'm mindful of how they move because it helps me communicate better our differentiator, right? So I'm mindful of it from that aspect. But what I am not is reactionary to their movements, because I know that there's a difference between our approach and the way that our business approaches things that is not even remotely close to the way that some of these other competitors or businesses approach it. And if you were to ever ask me who my competitor is, I would tell you it's us. But for the purposes of the realm that we live in, because everybody always wants to identify a competitor, you can say that there are the competitors, but I think it's always about clearing the noise and discerning what is right for your business. Only you know when the right time to enter the market is. Only you know when the market is past. And I feel like when, as a founder and as a leader, you still have that burning desire inside of you because you still see the problem and it's so prevalent in the population in which you aim to serve it for, then clear the noise and continue to power forward. And so I think that's the number one part of it. And then I think the biggest thing that I wish I would have learned in the beginning is to just be bullish around hiring and be unapologetic around what you're looking for. We made a lot of mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes. Honestly, they're really learning lessons. I don't believe we make mistakes in life. They're all opportunities to learn something new. But we hired a lot of people and we made a lot of concessions in the aspect of like, we believed in people and we felt that we could develop and they could come along on the journey and rise to the occasion. And the reality is, when you are a business that's trying to move at a particular speed, that embraces a certain level of agility, that's aiming to do stuff in neuropsychiatry as well as pharmacology and mental health, you have to be around the best of the best or the hungry of the hungry, meaning that even if you don't know this business, you have enough resilience and grit that you are willing to learn and figure it out and see it from an outside perspective to still bring something unique to the table. And I think the biggest learning opportunity that we had in the beginning was be more bullish on who you choose to hire and be unapologetic around the fact that we only want the best of the best. And it is what it is, because most of the billion-dollar companies or the unicorns didn't become unicorns because they were graceful or they made concessions or they compromise and let people join the team who weren't supposed to join the team. And so I think that was our biggest learning lesson earlier on.
It's people and processes, right? Like those two things you will live or die by those two things when growing a business. It's like, who are the people and what are your processes
Yeah.
and in growing it. Well, this has been a delightful engagement with you. Thank you so much. I think I'm looking forward to the book that you're going to write in the future. And then I also hope that we can have you on again and that we can continue to follow your trajectory of all of the ventures and the new things that I'm sure that you will be conquering in the future.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm so happy that I got an opportunity to sit with you today and have this conversation and also get to know and learn more and share more with your audience. So I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to see how everyone feels about it.
Thank you, Roxy. We appreciate you fitting us into your very busy schedule. I know that that is a tough thing. You're tougher to get than the president.
Hope not.
Uh,
Hope
and
not.
we love you so much. And thank you for being so generous with us. We appreciate
Like,
you.
you're the best, always.